Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Small Beez podcast, brought to you by Uniqueness and Central County's Tourism. On this podcast, we will be spotlighting local businesses and highlighting the importance of mental health and well-being. I'm sure we've all felt lonely and sad at one point or another after being locked at home for almost 2 years. The pandemic has definitely taken its toll and had some serious consequences on us all. Throughout 2020, statistics showed that there were significant concerns over the declining mental well-being of Canadians. These issues were only exacerbated by the extended length of the pandemic, depriving us of all mental health essentials. Maintaining social connection and staying active has been especially difficult with the many restrictions placed on us during the pandemic. However, as daily cases trend downwards and vaccine rollouts improve, everything is slowly returning to normal. While the mental health of Canadians was tested during the pandemic, the resilience of small businesses in Canada were also put to the test. Despite the dire circumstances and the odds stacked against them, businesses remained positive, with 76% of them confident that they would rebound after the crisis. Supporting small local businesses is an important part of helping your local community and is also a great way to enjoy yourself, get social, and improve your mental well-being. For our first ever episode, I'd like to introduce Lavender-Blu, a hobby farm, a lavender garden, and a lavender artisan studio located in Seagrave, Ontario. Their address is 2375 Bank Road. Keep that in mind, as you'll probably be looking to visit after listening to the rest of the podcast. Joining us today from Lavender-Blu is Mila Haynos-Owen, the founder and owner of Lavender-Blu. She was incredibly knowledgeable on lavender and a great guest for our first ever episode. With no further ado, let's get into the interview portion of the podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Small Beez podcast. Today, we have our very first debut guest on our first episode, Mila from Lavender-Blu. Everyone give her a hand. So on our podcast, we're trying to promote tourism and mental health at the same time. This is a Small Beez podcast, which focuses on highlighting small local businesses and the surrounding areas for tourism purposes. I'm here with New Step for You. We're a nonprofit organization that focuses on a variety of expressive art programs using tools such as 3D pens, virtual reality, and other mixed media, to name a few. These are all designed to relieve stress, increase self-esteem, inspire creativity, and improve the well-being of people of all different ages, from youngsters to seniors. We believe that art is a simple solution to happiness and well-being, and it doesn't matter what media you choose. So to start, I'd like to introduce our first guest, Mila from Lavender-Blu.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm Alex from NewStep, and I'm the strategy analyst here, and I'll also be hosting the podcast for today. So just for our first question, Mila, what is Lavender-Blu, and what do you do for our listeners that aren't familiar?
Well, thank you again for having me. First of all, Lavender-Blu is a small lavender farm located in the region of Scugog. We actually grow the lavender on our site. We have about 3,500 or so lavender plants on our farm. Furthermore, we are also a hobby farm, but we also have a lavender artisanal studio on our site. So that means I call myself a lavender artisan, and all the lavender that is harvested from our fields is then processed, and it is made into a variety of products that I then promote in the studio. But we also collaborate with many local artists in our community to find almost like a symbiotic relationship, but the binding thread is always lavender.
It sounds wonderful. It's great how lavender can be used in so many ways, and you can just kind of bring everybody together with it. So I was just wondering, what is something unique about Lavender-Blu that is different from like other lavender farms or compared to like other specialty farms and like gardens?
So at Lavender-Blu, what I've tried to do is I tried to kind of marry my love of horticulture, my love of education, with my love of the arts. So it's kind of a blend of these three worlds. Initially, when I established Lavender-Blu, I did not want for it to be a monoculture. I didn't want just straight rows of lavender. I wanted the lavender to be surrounded by nature, by an eco garden. So in the last 8 years that we have been at our location, I have worked together with a lot of different associations, but predominantly Guelph University and their apiary department. I had a lot of information from them as to what trees, what shrubs, and what perennial plants to plant together with the lavender to create an ecological garden. And the idea is to rewild the space so that the space is shared by wildlife and by the insects here on our property. We live very close to the Nonquan River, which is a turtle sanctuary here. So we have a lot of turtles. So the idea is when the plants are native and they feel welcome in their environment, the wildlife comes and shares that space and creates a certain calm vibe. And then we come into the space and that vibe is then transmitted over to us via that energy. So that is predominantly how I have tried to establish the garden. And then together, I invite a variety of artists in order to help me spread that love and spread that energy. So we are a space for artists such as florists. We work together with beekeepers. We have a lot of photographers. We work with yoga and different yoga studios who host yoga here in the lavender fields. We have artists who come paint plein air rather. And then we work with other artists who are inspired by the lavender. So we have a variety of potters, a variety of woodworkers, textile artists. Yeah, that's just to name a few. So.
Sounds absolutely wonderful. I love the idea of like nature and all the animals come. So I just wanted to ask you again, what was the lake that you mentioned that's near Lavender-Blu, like the turtle sanctuary?
Yeah, so we are very close to Lake Scugog, but there's actually a river that is called the River Nonquan. And the River Nonquan is a habitat for a lot of bird species, wetland bird species, many dragonflies, damselflies, as well as turtles. So what happens is that the turtles in the springtime, they come up on the banks to lay their eggs. So we've been working together with a Halliburton turtle rescue center, and they taught us how to make these special cages. So when the turtles come up and lay their eggs, we've learned how to make special cages to protect the egg nesting sites. And that way we have been able to protect hundreds of turtles and then release them back into the Nonquan. So that has been a program that I've been a part of now, I think for the last 4 years.
It sounds wonderful. I'm just wondering, is it like a protected area, or is that somewhere that people can like visit for just like hikes, or like if they want to see the nature there?
It's usually it's the area of Lake Scugog. Of course, it's very popular with boaters, with cottagers. But on the Nonquan River, they are offering now kayak tours. There is a little business that opened up just this year in Seagrave, in my little village, that offers kayak tours on the Nonquan, and then private paddles along the Nonquan. There is a Nonquan information center. It's almost like a little, I guess, how would you call it? Like a conservation center, I guess. And they do a lot of educational walks, talks, and programs there, very often for schools. And predominantly they specialize in educating about the wetlands. So, looking at beavers, looking at different birds that nest in the wetlands. They look at turtles and the turtle species and what we can do to protect the wetlands, because they are such a rich, biodiverse area.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it'd also be just like a great education opportunity, like you mentioned, for like any families or any schools. Like it does sound like a super interesting place to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, but at New Steps for You, we're focusing on improving mental health by using art. I know you just mentioned that lavender is often like used in art. So I was just wondering if you tell me some like more specific applications of it.
Yeah. So initially I fell in love with lavender because of its versatility. So I'm really interested in many different art forms. So I really like, photography. I do a little bit of painting. I'm interested in the horticultural side of lavender and what horticulture does to our wellness and well-being as well. That means being outside, the gardening aspect of it, finding yourself basically in that Zen space when you are in the garden. So the unique thing about growing lavender is that unlike other flowers, when you go and you harvest the lavender, and it doesn't have a 2-week vase life. It actually is the beginning. So when I'm growing it and I'm cultivating it, I know that at the end of the season, it's not really the end, it is just the beginning, because lavender allows me to incorporate it once it is dried into a variety of different mediums. So there is one side of lavender that kind of promotes different arts while it is fresh, while it is growing and blooming. So like I said, we have photography, we have artists painting plein air, we have yoga, we have florists that come and harvest fresh. We have some wellness individuals that make tinctures and variety of creams and salves from an apothecary kind of perspective. So they come and harvest as well. So it touches on the wellness side, I guess, of the arts and the creativity, photography, painting, etc. And then we move over to when I actually process the lavender. When the lavender is dried, I am able to use the lavender in a variety of different ways from an artistic side. So I can, once it is dried, I can debud it, and the buds are then used for a variety of sachets. They are used in soap making and soap production. They are used for a variety of wedding venues, crafting, and then we move into the culinary world. So lavender for cooking. Lavender is from the mint family of plants. So that means it's from the same family as rosemary, mint, thyme, oregano, and therefore is wonderful with its aroma and beautiful essential oils. It has not only a fragrance as far as the perfume side goes, but only a flavor, also the flavor. So it's a lovely, beautiful herb to experiment with if you want to cook with it. So that's yet again a completely different side of the arts that lavender can be explored.
It really is amazing that you can use it in like so many different applications, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
photography to cooking. It's just such a broad range that
I
it's
know,
really
right?
interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
I haven't actually, I don't know if I've tried lavender like as used like similar to mint or as a spice, but I think I'd have to try that because it sounds really good. I mean, just like the flowers smell incredible.
Yeah, it's very similar to mint, and it has a kind of a minty flavor. It was never meant to be as, the main flavor. It's meant to be as a flavor enhancer.
So it helps bring out like the food, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I see. So I guess would you say that it's kind of different from the normal fragrance that we associate with lavender, sorry, like the smell? Like would it be quite different when used in cooking?
Exactly. So there are a few different lavender varieties that you can grow. There are the French varieties, they have a higher content of camphor essential oil within their essential oil composition. So they are more used for the sachets, for the soap production, in bath salts, as they have a stronger flavor. Whereas the English varieties called the true lavenders or the angustifolias, which means narrowed leaf lavenders, they are so-called sweeter lavenders just because the camphor in their essential oil composition is not as high, so that the flavor is a little bit sweeter, and it tends to blend well with savory cooking, sweet cooking, and making a variety of infusions.
That's really interesting. I was just wondering, do you happen to have both? Like you mentioned, there's like more of a French and like an English style. Like what type of lavender do you guys plant at LavenderBlu?
We do. We grow both the French as well as the English. So as far as the French lavender goes, we have the grosso. So it has really, really long, beautiful stems with very long kind of spiky lavender tops. They make beautiful kind of like flower arrangement flowers. They are, of course, dried and then debudded for the buds for their fragrance. They're very, very fragrant. Then we have predominantly most of our fields are made up of the English lavenders just because of where we are, our location. That has proven to be the better lavender for the place that we are at over here. We are quite far from Lake Ontario, so we don't have that moderate climate. So the winters do hit hard. And then we have a period of time in February, March, where you might have a thaw and a freeze and a thaw and a freeze. And that's kind of the most tricky part to navigate when it comes to growing lavender. So they tend to be, the English lavenders tend to be a little bit hardier, and therefore they survived in our field a little bit better. So most of our field is the English lavender, and that's why we specialize in culinary lavender predominantly.
That makes sense. So just jumping back a bit, you mentioned earlier that there was like wellness aspects, and like lavender is a fragrance that we often associate with like calm and relaxation. I think you touched on yoga, but I was just wondering if there are any other like wellness applications of lavender, because at New Step for You, we're always focused on improving mental health and well-being. And I was wondering if there was like a connection over to lavender.
Yeah. So the history of lavender really is really, really fascinating. I am a little bit of a history buff and I love geography. Those have always been my favorite subjects. So of course, when I was enamored with lavender, that's kind of the first research that I did. I looked at the geography of it. Where did it come from? And how long has it been around? So from the archaeological perspective, we think that lavender began by the Tigris and the Euphrates area. So that is what we now know as Turkey. And it's a very Mediterranean rough climate, very rugged, dry. So it is a Mediterranean shrub. And then it is mentioned in the ancient Egyptian archaeological findings. It was used as the dried sticks to light on fire to smolder to give a smoke. It was also infused in olive oil to take out the beautiful essential oils to scent the oils. And there was also some little lavender buds that were found in the embalming process between the bandages of the mummies. So we're looking at about 2,500 years of history of this beautiful plant. And throughout history, lavender has been connected to wellness and the well-being in the sense that it has always been somehow present in healing. We know it from the Romans that they used the lavender to douse the wounds of the gladiators. Lavender has antibacterial and antimicrobial qualities. We know that now. So therefore it helps the healing process. So, perhaps it isn't the wound itself, but the infection that then caused a person to die from the wound. So lavender was used as that to help heal the wounds. Later on in the Middle Ages, we rediscover lavender in the infirmary gardens of the monasteries in Europe. So at that time, they didn't have hospitals per se. So any kind of ill or sick people would usually go to a monastery to get help. And we discovered that lavender was there in the medicinal garden. Again, it was used for a variety of illnesses, to treat wounds, to treat stomach issues, and to treat liver issues, I believe. It was kind of written down in the old monastic books. Fast forward to World War One, lavender was required in the battlefields when the soldiers were in the trenches. Medicine rations ran low. Lavender was used again to treat any kind of bacterial infections and help to heal wounds. Then, of course, fast forward again a little bit more. We're looking into lavender as a form of aromatherapy. So as in essential oils, helping our bodies within the wellness industry. So the connection between lavender and well-being has been recorded over so many, many hundreds of years. I guess in a nutshell, lavender is really known for its calming and soothing effect. That means it's a balancing essential oil. So that means when you're very kind of high and hyper, it helps you to kind of calm down. But again, if you are too calm and you're too down, lavender helps you to kind of helps you to kind of to cheer up and give you the energy. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, and the lavender tea is known as a digestive, so it does have that minty quality, like you were saying. What does it taste like? So when you make lavender tea, you really do get that minty quality out of the lavender, and it's great for the digestive system. And again, it has a tendency to calm the nervous system. So again, both calming the nervous system and very much a wound healing property and agents. Yeah.
That's fascinating. It reminds me of like all the way back in like elementary school, like learning about like ancient civilizations, and it's so interesting that lavender was like present in all of them and like used in like well-being, especially like across the world, which is really interesting.
It is, yeah. It touches on many cultural, geographical locations that are really, really fascinating because they have had a hand in a lot of the wellness for many hundreds, if not thousands of years.
For sure. Do you know if it's still used in modern medicine today in terms of like actually like as a disinfectant and stuff, or is it more used for like wellness in like the modern age now with a lot of medical advancements?
Yeah, well, I know that in homeopathic medicine, it's certainly used. It has in aromatherapy, it is used for sure for wellness massages. It is used for foot massages. There are a variety of when you call like a natural first aid kit, the lavender essential oil is always kind of seems to be part of that. When it comes to, what else would I say? Aquatherapy. So it's not very well known perhaps in North America, but I know from Europe that taking healing baths and using water and exercising in water and using essential oils in baths and having that as a complementary medicine, lavender is definitely used today. Of course, I think predominantly we know it from the cosmetic world. It is used in a lot of soap production. It's a lot of lotions and creams and perfumes. Lavender is used predominantly, I think, in that aspect.
I see. Quite interesting. So I was also just wondering for the name or like just the origin of LavenderBlu. Like I noticed there's no E in the blue. So was there like a special meaning to that or anything? Or what was like the inspiration, I guess, behind the name?
One of my favorite colors is the color blue, but this was kind of like a brainstorming idea because I never kind of like to do things in I guess I have a little unique spin always on things that I like to do. Nothing is ever kind of centered. I like to mimic Mother Nature, take things off center, make things a little bit unique. So I wanted to add a hint of uniqueness to the name. So I took the E out of the blue.
I'm glad that
And
there's actually a story. I was just wondering, like maybe there's
yeah,
like a character limit or something, but it's cool to say that there's actually a backstory. And speaking of
yeah.
backstory, I was just wondering, what was like your initial inspiration for starting LavenderBlu? I'm guessing it was some sort of like asphyxiation with like lavender, right? Or like how did that start, I guess?
Well, yeah. Initially, I wanted to start my own business that would really combine, like I said, my love of horticulture, education, and my love of the arts. And I was looking for, I guess, that binding element, or one element that would help me kind of connect those three elements together. And I looked at a variety, really a variety of different, I guess, ideas initially. My mom is a pharmacist from Poland. So when I was very small, I was raised among herbs, literally, in her apothecary. So I think subliminally, the scent of herbs has always been a part of me. She has always made me a variety of teas when I wasn't feeling very well. She always used a variety of, tinctures and creams and salves. And I think that the element of, having a tea that comforting, something that's comforting, something that's tangible, that kind of goes on your skin, that, if you do have a boo-boo, you put something on there and it will make you well. It has always had a connection with me. So when I had my children, I just continued that tradition. We always had an herbal garden, and I went to collect herbs from the garden, and I made teas and I made tinctures and I made my own salves, just for, small little abrasions and so on. So I wanted something connected to horticulture. I just didn't know what it would be. I thought maybe a garden with a variety of herbs, for blending teas. That was one of the ideas that I had. The other idea was to grow sea buckthorn. I really liked the power of sea buckthorn, and the fact that it really does. It's an Arctic kind of a plant, so it will survive in Canada. I looked at Saskatoon berries. I looked at mustard plants. I looked at willows for basket weaving. So there was an array of ideas that I had in my mind. And it was actually my mom who went on a holiday to Hawaii, to Maui, and told me that she visited a lavender farm there. So she brought back a gift basket for me full of all kinds of lavender inspired products. There were some culinary things there, some cosmetic things there. There was lavender essential oil. So it got my wheels spinning.
Mm-hmm.
And so the year after that, my mom and I, we were on a plane and we were headed off to Sequim, Washington State, which is, they claim that they are the lavender capital of North America. It's a very small town that transforms in the month of July, as there are many, many lavender farms surrounding that town. They close off a street and there are many vendors. So there were, people barbecuing with lavender. There was lavender infused drinks. There was lavender coffee, lavender tea. There were potters with different lavender themes. There was textile artists, painters. And then we actually visited some farms to see the horticulture side of it. And I was really hooked. I enjoyed it so much. And I was fascinated by the versatility of just this plant. So I was literally hooked, and I came back home and that was it. Yeah, I started my own research then.
I can definitely
Unfortunately
see
at
how that
that
inspired you.
Yeah, unfortunately at that point in time, a lot of the books and the research was very much coming like from California. It was coming from France. So it was a little bit of a science experiment to actually grow it in Canada, to figure out, which varieties would would grow well here. And at that time, the Ontario Lavender Association was establishing. So I paired up and partnered up with them. So they were in the Niagara region. There was a Simcoe station working together with the University of Guelph there and Omafra. So that was a fantastic kind of a source for me to go to, because I knew that there was research behind it, and I knew that they were, trying to kind of get their teeth into the world of lavender and find out if it's actually doable to grow it, to cultivate it here, and to make it a viable crop here in Canada. So that was really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Canada's definitely not the easiest place to start growing plants, right?
Yeah, no.
With our harsh winters. Yeah, and it sounds great that your mom had all of these like herbs for you growing up. I feel like it'd be so great. Like you would never be like truly injured, right? Like probably a lot of like healing properties and everything.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful. So we touched on this a little earlier, but for our viewers that aren't too familiar with the surrounding area of like Lake Scugog, you mentioned like the Turtle Conservatory, but is there anything else that you would recommend visiting if someone were to go near Lake Scugog?
Yeah, so I have been involved within the community of Scugog now in the last 8 years since we have been here. I have been very involved within the world of arts in the area of Scugog. So it is a beautiful and a very rich area for a variety of artists. And the nice thing is that the artists have little tiny studios here, there, and everywhere. So yes, other than Port Perry, the beautiful little town of Port Perry, which is right on Lake Scugog, it offers a beautiful walk along the lake and along a little wetland. It has beautiful little shops. You can just go up and down on Queen Street, which is the main area. There's Water Street, which is the main area. There are so many nice little quaint restaurants that you can enjoy with really lovely food. Everything is walking distance in Port Perry, and I love that. If I need to run all of my errands, I park my car, I'm at the post office, I'm at the bank, I'm at the art gallery, I'm at the, I'm walking by the lake. So everything is really walking distance. I don't need to drive anywhere far to get from one point to another. But the really lovely thing about Port Perry, the Scugog area here, as far as the travel industry goes, is that you get to discover all these little nooks and crannies. So, very often people who visit us here at LavenderBlu, they say, I didn't know you existed. Like, I see your sign, but I didn't know who you are. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I want you to think that. Like, it's a little discovery journey. And there is a new cidery that has opened up next to us called Two Oaks Cidery. We have a new winery, Applewood Winery. There are a lot of artists. For example, I just visited my friend who is a potter who did some lavender pottery with us. Her studio is tucked away down this beautiful country road, really, really charming. I just went to a wool mill that's located very close to Port Perry, and you would be surprised. These are industrial machines processing wool and sheep skin into a variety of products, and you're like, what? Like, you guys are here? This is incredible. So there are a few artists that work with metal, with wood. There are weavers who are practicing, the ancient art of weaving. On looms, and actually showcase and show you how it's done. There are encaustic artists, there are Indigenous artists, of course. On the Scugog Island, we have an Indigenous community, and that is coming across in beautiful art forms. And not only is there an annual powwow that's usually on the island, but their arts and their crafts comes into the society, into Port Perry, and is part, of course, historically it's there. So it's beautiful that we have that that combination. There's also What else is there? Yeah, so for me, the world of art, it's really very, very alive here. So I'm always excited to go and discover all those little paths and all those little studios that look kind of hidden, but then behind the doors or behind the farm gate, you suddenly find, you know, amazing art, really.
It sounds charming to just walk around and be able to like find all these like amazing like
Yeah.
discoveries and places you don't know. And I love
Yeah,
how
so
you
yeah,
mentioned
so
everything is
Lakes,
connected.
that's right. So LavenderBlu has been a part of the Lakes Cougach Studio tour for the last 6 years. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we were not able to organize it in the last 2 years. But that's, you know, a self-driven tour, always the first weekend in May, of over 52 local artists. So that's just like alone 52 different artists, you know, on our tour. It's really special. Yeah.
Mhm. That sounds great. And I also love how you mentioned that like the indigenous influences like felt there and like how everything was just very connected. It sounds amazing. And I love like the
Yes.
quaint description that you're giving me.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah. A
also
lot of
wondering, sorry, you mentioned that like you do partner with like restaurants and stuff for like lavender from LavenderBlu. So are there any like local restaurants that you know like use LavenderBlu or lavender from your farm that you would like recommend?
Oh, absolutely. So we are actually kind of located very close to the town of Port Perry, but we're also located very close to the town of Uxbridge. So the restaurant, the Urban Pantry in Uxbridge, uses our culinary lavender to make a variety of delicious dishes. So I was just in last week or 2 weeks ago, I was trying their fantastic dessert. It was like a citrusy lemon curd with the lavender. They have a variety of cocktails and drinks where they use our lavender. They make a syrup, a lavender syrup, and then infuse their drinks with that. There's also the Fig Kitchen. They make lavender infused lemonade, and they use our lavender in a variety of dishes as well. So they are also in Uxbridge. So we've partnered up with that, and we've also partnered up last year. We did an event with Blue Heron Books in Uxbridge. So they featured a lot of cookbooks, culinary cookbooks. So we had lavender bundles, and of course and their books, which were the lavender cookbooks, or Provençal cookbooks, or cookbooks from Tuscany. So kind of Mediterranean inspired cooking where lavender was included, and our bundles were also included. There's also a small shop called the Lemonade Stand in Uxbridge, and they carry our culinary bundles. So they always make like a little hostess gift, a very nice little something. I call it yeah, a little souvenir, I guess, that you bring to someone if you are visiting, or as a hostess gift. Yeah, and that's our prime culinary lavender. So it's a little lavender bundle, but of course it can be used for cooking or for making a variety of culinary dishes.
Makes sense. I guess it'd be like, is it especially satisfying like eating at a place and you're like, this is like the lavender that I've been growing that I'm eating now. Like it must be great having that feeling, like being a part
Yeah,
of the whole
it's
process
lovely.
almost.
It
Yeah.
is. It's lovely. It really is. And what brings happiness to me is, you know, that my excitement about lavender doesn't just end with my farm. I get to share it, and I get to I guess I get to inspire others on how they can use the lavender. So that has been, I think, the greatest inspiration to me, or it brings so much happiness to me that, that I can do that through LavenderBlu.
Yeah, for sure. I can feel it. I can really feel like the passion that you have and like how proud you are in your voice. It's great to hear. Yeah. I was also just wondering, like at LavenderBlu, I'm sure that like the full bloom lavender season with the beautiful fields is like the main drawing point for visitors. But I was also wondering like how long is LavenderBlu open or like given the seasonal nature of the plant? So like do you operate online at all? Or like do you have a in-store storefront or how does it work throughout the year, I guess, in terms of how long you're open and how you operate?
Yeah, so as I mentioned when we started our interview, that we do have a little shop on site. So
Yeah.
that is my LavenderBlu Studio. So the LavenderBlu Studio is actually open year round. We are open every Saturday from 10 till 4. Then we have special events going on throughout the year. So Christmas time is where we have a little bit more opening hours. We do the Lake Scugog Studio Tour, which is a really lovely weekend, first weekend in May. And there are other events throughout the year, such as Culture Days, which we are part of. That's usually in September. And yes, July, that is our peak season. So our lavender bloom starts at the end of June with a lavender blush. And then throughout the month of July, we are open every single day. So here at LavenderBlu, we offer garden tours. We offer a variety of workshops. We open the garden for a variety of private events. So LavenderBlu is buzzing with activity in the month of July, because that is when lavender is in bloom. So it's really 6 weeks of beauty that we're trying to really encapsulate and offer to as many people as we are able to. However, because we are a small little secret garden, so to say, we unfortunately cannot have 70 or 80 or 100 cars parked near our farm. So we are a little bit of an exclusive garden, and we do offer everything that I just told you by appointment. So the photographers come here by appointment, so they schedule the appointments. Our garden tours are via appointment, or I call it as reservation. So it's kind of like going to a restaurant, but funkier. And we do offer a variety of workshops. They're called Cultivating Calm workshops in the evenings throughout the month of July. And again, they are by appointment only too.
I love the idea of cultivating calm. I think it really resonates with the ideas that we preach at New Step for You as well. So
exactly.
I feel like we found like a really great guest for you guys as our first ones. I'm also just curious, like, what's the type of people that usually go? Like, is it like a date night type vibe, or like, is it like families, or who do you usually see that like comes to LavenderBlu?
Goodness me, it is really, really interesting. So the idea of a tourist, I guess, you're trying to attract what's so-called tourist or visitor. It can be anybody who is a neighbor from down the street, kind of peeking over the fence and saying, what is it that you do there every day? What are you growing? What does it look like? So I say, come and take a peek. So it's anything literally from our neighbor down the street. It is families with children who want to, expose children to something different. And I welcome that wholeheartedly, because I too am an outdoor educator. So I target a lot of the education to children, to younger children, to older children, to teens. I certainly try to always kind of package the lavender in a nice educational little packet, so that any visitor who comes into the garden leaves knowing a little bit more about it than they first came in. We have had musicians, we have artists, we have families who come and visit. I've had politicians, I have had, let's see, who else? I've had, yes, there's of course romance involved with lavender, as you know, a lavender is connected to love and devotion. In floriography, which is the Victorian language of the flowers, that's what it's known for. So we have a variety of couples coming. For sure, for the photographers, we've had a lot of engagement sessions being photographed at the lavender farm. There are a lot of families with children. Children really gravitate to lavender. They love the color, they love the scent, they love the texture, they love the fact that so many insects come to the lavender. They see butterflies and crickets, and they catch little grasshoppers, and they see praying mantises. So and our field is kind of quite large so that the kids can run freely in it. We of course have people who want to have a little bit of peace and quiet. So when I get that vibe, they tell me, Mila, I need an hour to go into the field, and I say, good, okay, there you go. So I show them we have a meditation spiral that they can walk. They can walk the fields. We have little quiet sitting areas where people can sit quietly and just literally, if they need to write something down or they want to meditate or whatever the reason is. And we also cater to a lot of people who are interested in horticulture. So that means a variety of gardening groups. So I host a lot of gardening groups as well. And who else comes through? Yeah, yeah, I think I've touched on most of it.
I guess that was quite a big variety for going from like families, politicians, musicians, everyone. I guess it's just a spot. But it does sound very interesting.
I know, it really is. And I know it sounds funny, but it's just as lavender is so versatile, it also attracts a versatile number of guests.
I guess that would be very fitting. Yeah. And I guess last time in our private meeting, you mentioned that you've been working on like a book, which would make sense with how you seem to be an expert. Like, is there any news that you can share about that you wanted to talk about? Or?
That is my project. It has been a very, very personal project that I have been working on for the last 3 years right now. So I am in the process of writing a book about lavender and about what it is that we do here. And again, the message in the book is exactly what we are talking about here today, about the versatility of lavender, the beauty of lavender, and connecting the world of horticulture, education, and the arts. So it's a little project in the making. I have been working with beautiful local photographers. Anything and everything in the book will be local, and it will be shot on the farm so that the message comes from the farm. And yeah, so hopefully next year I will have it so that it's actually here, as in I can show it to you.
Sounds wonderful. Fingers crossed that you can get that done. But yeah, and I hope you update me when you get that completed. But it sounds
Definitely.
something. Yeah, it sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is we got a lot of questions from you today, and you gave a lot of great answers about lavender and all of its uses. LavenderBlu really does sound like such an amazing place to visit. And yeah, I just wanted to stress like the importance of mental health for everybody as we're continuing to have lockdown restrictions ease. I think getting out is really important for mental health. A lot of statistics have shown that, especially being locked up in our houses, quarantining for a whole year for so long, it's really important for us to get back out. And a great way to do that is supporting local businesses such as LavenderBlu and a lot of the other ones within the area that you mentioned as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time and coming on the podcast today, Mila. It was so wonderful getting to talk to you and getting to know more about lavender and LavenderBlu as a whole.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to share my lavender journey with you. Thank you.
Thanks again to Mila and LavenderBlu for joining us on the podcast, and shout out to Central County's Tourism for sponsoring our podcast. If you'd like to learn more about LavenderBlu, check them out on their socials posted on screen now, or check out our website from the link in the description where we'll have all their social medias and a small write-up. If you're interested, also please consider making a donation to us on our website so we can continue to spread joy and creativity within our community with the power of arts. That's a wrap on this episode, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.